Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all peoples around the globe. Asia, Europe, Australia, South America, North America, Africa, and other continents. In the Philippines, I would like to thank Department of Education because they offered variety of curricula, particularly community engagement, solidarity, and citizenship. This video, I would like to emphasize that this is a very new, curriculum as a community, communal. This is a very timely because students nowadays they do not like to participate socially in the betterment of their society as a whole. Now, let's take first the overview of this subject. Again, community engagement, solidarity, and citizenship. How do we engage, solidify, and citizentify as a community? Community action is any activity that increases the understanding, engagement, and empowerment of communities in the design and delivery of local services. It is about putting communities at the heart of their own local services, which involves helping the community to share knowledge, skills, and ideas. That's why it is called communal community services. The common good of the people around within your community. Okay? Remember, peace begins with me, to the people around me, in the community, in the society as a whole, or around the world. That is also community services. Because if you do not have peace of mind, what happens to community? There, community action involves the different core values and principles, which include human rights, because you are dealing with human beings. Of course, animals there, animals, dog, your pets, your piggery, your, you know, chickens and the like, plants are also beings. But we are particularly dealing with humans. Social equality, gender equality, and participatory development. You don't have this societal development without participation, social participation in general. Human rights are universal and inalienable in nature, which means all people around the globe are entitled to these rights. According to Nickel, they exist and are available standards of justifications and criticism whether or not they are recognized or implemented by the legal system or officials of the country, because that is inalienable, inept, okay, inborn. What does it mean? The fetus has already human rights, even if that is not yet fully developed inside the womb of a mother. But that fetus has already human rights to born, to release on earth. Do not abort, because once you abort, or there is already a violation of human rights of that fetus. Okay? Now, this aim to identify if they are recognized or implemented by the legal system or officials of a country. For example, in the Philippines, we have many issues regarding human rights. Remember, in the time of, let's say, 1971, 1972, until this 2022, there are still human rights issues. Now, for human rights violations, there are three basic rights. What are these? This principle behind human rights is a very vague, but let's take the category, three categories. One, right to life, right to liberty, and right to property. Right to life is a moral principle based on the belief that a human being has the right to live, and in particular should not be killed by another human being. Just like abortion, just like murder without a cause, just like somebody what attempted to kill or frustrated murder, for example. Those are human right violations. Okay? So you have the right to live. Even the fetus is still, okay, 3 months, has already life. That is. Right to liberty is the right of all persons to freedom of their person, freedom of movement and heartbeat. Right to liberty is right of all persons, of all people, because this is a universal declaration of human rights. Okay, whether you are in the Middle East, you are the United States, Australia, Canada, or any parts of the globe, you have the right to liberty. Liberty may be deprived in terms of administrative authorities, wherein it is necessary, as in the case of mentally disturbed persons. During state of emergency or of disarray, right to liberty may legally be limited while intending to preserve life. That is different because there is a state of emergency. Hence, right to property or right to own property is often classified as a human right for natural persons regarding their possessions. Even in the Bible, there is also a commandments regarding thou shall not steal, thou shall not false possess, something like that, with your neighbor's property, something like that. That is also the basis of the human rights. Right to property or right to own property is often, remember, a natural person's human right for natural person. As I said, these are inept. These are inborn. These are already constant. Okay? As long as you are living on earth, these are already present, existing. Another principle of action involves social equity. This is another principle. Social equity is defined as the equality and fairness in terms of the treatment of human rights, access to resources, and life chances. According to Global Issues Pilot Team, social justice is a societal value which guides human interaction and, in particular, the fair distribution of society's benefits, advantages, and assets, not just by law and the courts, by all aspects of society. This involves the fairness in distributing financial aids to the needy and impoverished. Here, we can say that if the president of a certain country, okay, during this pandemic, all right, distributed monetary assistance to a one place or to a certain community, this is subjected to all because this is allowed by constitution. Social justice. Okay, for example, Olivia was a teacher at a certain school, all right? She experienced homophobic abuse by pupils at the school. This mainly took the form of oral abuse, including the use of words such as indecent words, and then the teacher reported to the school heads. What happens? The abuse continued and Olivia took sick leave, suffering from stress. She never returned to work and eventually had to take ill health retirement. Now, however, aside from human beings, it is possible to have an advocacy on other beings such as plants and animals, especially when their existence is endangered or threatened by human acts. Remember, there is also what you call Animal Welfare Protection Act. If we have a protection act for human beings, there is another law for animals, maybe with plants also. So all beings on earth, whether it's human, animal, or plants, we are all equally treated as beings, as created by God. Therefore, we don't have any more that particular separation in terms of rights. All right? If there is human rights or plant rights. And what are these? Right to live also by plants and animals. You know, what happens if you don't like to give food to your pets or to your animals? What happens if you do not like to water the plants? What happens? There is what? Inequality treatment. Okay? Now, what about empowerment and advocacy of community action? Empowerment is a capacity of individuals to make choices that can produce the desired changes in their social, economic, and political lives. It is important that people be empowered so that they will not be depending on the others for charity. Empowerment in varying degrees also involves the interplay between the agency and the opportunity structure. Furthermore, empowerment encompasses having the ability to make one's own decisions, to control, to gain further control, to fight for one's rights, and to say something and be listened to, and being free, independent, recognized, and accepted as equal citizens who can make a difference, according to WHO, World Health Organizations. These are the strategies of empowerment: self confidence, positivity, meditation, people around you, and priorities. Advocacy, on the other hand, involves fighting for the rights of others and having their concerns addressed by targeting people in position of power. It is an act of supporting a cause. There are three types of advocacy: systematic, individual, and self advocacy. When you say systematic, system advocacy, it focuses on effort that shall exchange policies at the local, national, and international level so that lasting changes will be brought to the lives of groups of individuals who share similar problems. Individual advocacy, on the other hand, focuses on efforts that will change the situation of individual and protect his or her right. And lastly, self-advocacy focuses on strengthening an individual's ability to communicate with other people. At the same time, persuading and convincing the individual to address his own decision makers, his own needs. You know, what is common among these advocacies? We have They have their own decision making strategies. They have their leaders, policymakers who can affect positive change. Advocacy, lastly, work requires a carefully detailed advocacy campaign which follows a cyclical procedure. Okay, what are these procedures? You follow the scientific method, gathering information, developing the objectives, identifying the level of advocacy, what are your targets, how do you develop the advocacy messages, how do you identify your allies, how do you make available resources, create action plan, and motivate or monitoring, evaluate your advocacy work. Now, let's take a look on these two so that next meeting we will continue with participatory development in community action initiatives. So let us start with this question: how do we engage, solidify, and citizenify as a community? So every members of the community has its own role vitally or essentially to play, to contribute, so that we can attain the common goal to live, to justify, to satisfy our basic needs. All right. Thank you for listening. Please subscribe my YouTube channel, Over 51 channel 2022, so that every video will notify you. Thank you for listening. Bye. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to all of you.